Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I want to do a second video on Lucy Letby. My previous video, which I'll link below, I gave an example from my own life where I encountered a woman had similar behaviors to Lucy Letby, and I wanted to show people how a person can seem so sweet and so nice and actually be a very dangerous human being, and why so many people can't recognize it, including other medical professionals. And the video, people really like the video, but there are many people who have come forth with comments which show me that they're confused about some things. They're confused about Munchausen syndrome by proxy, about psychopathy, and about serial killing as far as women go. And so I got these interesting comments, and I want to clear things up here because I want to ask, well, what do you think? I know what I think. Is Lucy Letby, does she suffer from a disorder called Munchausen syndrome by proxy? Is she a psychopath? Is she a serial killer? Or will you agree with me that she's all three? Now, all right, in order to help you understand now, let me start with Munchausen syndrome by proxy, because I think the biggest confusion comes with that. Let me read to you just the basic of it. Okay, so Munchausen syndrome by proxy, it's also now called fictitious syndrome, which, they change the names all the time. I prefer Munchausen syndrome by proxy. It is a psychological disorder marked by attention-seeking behavior by a caregiver through those who are in their care. All right, so it's an attention-seeking behavior. Now let me go a little further down here. Interesting, it says that the characteristics are common in a person with what they call Munchausen syndrome by proxy, MSBP or MSP, depending on how you want to abbreviate it. Is a person or caregiver, usually a mother, may be a healthcare professional, is friendly and cooperative with healthcare providers, indeed they are, appears quite concerned. Some may be overly concerned about their child or the child. Also, by the way, a caregiver can be a mother, it can be a grandmother, it can be a nurse, it can be a babysitter, daycare provider. It could be a variety of people, usually female. They may suffer from Munchausen syndrome, and then there's in quotes, a related disorder, which a person repeatedly acts as if they have a physical or mental illness, and they're not really sick. So Munchausen syndrome is when you claim that you're ill, or things have been done to you. Somebody's poisoned me, somebody raped me, blah, 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 but that's not really true. But you get attention through that. Or Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which means you use somebody else, usually a little kid or a baby, to claim this is happening to them, so you get attention through them, okay? Like vicariously almost. So possible signs of MSP or MSBP, Munchausen syndrome by proxy. A child has a history of many hospitalizations. The child can become worse after they go back home again. The parent or caregiver can say, this is the problem with the kid, but the tests don't support it. And you're like, but a lot of times, even when that doesn't support it, then they just say, oh, that parent's just, she's just overly concerned. And they send the kid home with the parent, and the kid comes back. Sometimes do different doctors so that you don't catch on, There may be more than one unusual illness or death of children in the family. So here is something people don't understand. Munchausen syndrome by proxy, some have said, Pat Brown, that just means that their kids are being made ill, or there's a claim that they're ill. No. Munchausen syndrome by proxy can also mean that you're killing the children. So there's different levels of it. And the worst level, of course, is killing one child after the other. Like Mary Beth Tinning, she killed 9 of her babies. All right, so there's different levels of this. And at the end it says here, I want to point this out because this is the most important thing, actually. They call it a disorder. That this person, usually a female, has a disorder. All right. Let's see where they say the disorder comes from. They're saying, how it's diagnosed. Well, it's difficult, they say, to diagnose because of the dishonesty involved. Yeah, in other words, she's a lying dog. And so was Angela, the woman I spoke about, she lied all the time. It's hard to get the truth from her because she's a pathological liar. Doctors must rule out any physical illness and any legitimate reason for the child being ill or being dead in order to prove that this person might actually be exhibiting Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So that's a problem. There's no statistics, they say, on how many there are here. And then what causes it? The exact cause of Munchausen syndrome by proxy is unknown. They're looking for biological and psychological factors. I'm going to tell you what causes Munchausen syndrome by proxy: psychopathy. Now, this is the whole point, which I think some people missed. And I want to clear it up because I have a very strong opinion on this. I do not agree with certain psychologists or the DSM-V that Munchausen syndrome by proxy is, how do they claim this? Let me just go back up so I say it correctly. A psychological disorder. No, it is not a disorder. Why do I say that? Because it's not something wrong in your brain that makes you do it. It is not a disorder. It is a behavior. And that's two different things. So Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a behavior of, guess who? Psychopaths. You cannot do the things that the Munchausen syndrome people do, the Munchausen syndrome by proxy people do. You cannot constantly pathologically lie, manipulate, harm, kill if you're not a psychopath. So Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen syndrome by proxy are behaviors of a psychopath. It's not a disorder. And that's where the confusion comes in. So, and somebody said, well, nobody's diagnosed her that way. I'm like, I don't care. If nobody's figured it out, that's unfortunate. If they'd figured it out earlier, maybe there wouldn't be so many dead babies. But they didn't figure it out because she has that nice face. She smiles. She's good at manipulating. All right. So, and why she's good at manipulating? Because she's a psychopath, not just somebody who suffers from a disorder. All right. Now, psychopathy, can you fix it? No, because it's not fixable, and neither is Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and they've never figured out how to fix it because they're psychopaths. Now, yes, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I am not diagnosing her as a psychopath or having the behaviors of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I'm just saying, probably those are good labels. Anyway, so do I think she exhibited Munchausen syndrome by proxy? Absolutely, 100%. That's a behavior. So yes, is she a psychopath? Anyone, since she's been found guilty, I'm going to say this, anyone who could kill innocent little babies, tear those little babies away from their families, their loving mothers and loving fathers, and get a kick out of it, because that's what she did. She got a thrill, the power, the control, the attention. That's what she wanted. So she killed. That means not being a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I'm going to still say the woman's a psychopath. Yeah. So yes, she exhibited the behaviors of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Yes, I think she's a psychopath. Now let's get to the serial killer label. It's interesting division on the serial killer label. Some people say, well, she had a condition. Like Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a disorder. Therefore, she's not really a serial killer. She has a disorder. And then other people say, why do you just go on with this Munchausen syndrome by proxy? It's not like she just couldn't help herself. She's a serial killer. All right. Which one is it? Well, again, it's all three. Because Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a behavior of psychopaths. And if they kill, not just harm, not just lie and fake. If you are a person who is just claiming your children are sick, you're not a serial killer. All right. If you claim you've been raped 5 different times by 5 different people, you're not a serial killer. You're a serial liar, serial accuser, a serial false police report person, but you're not a serial killer. If you harm your children over and over again, you are a serial abuser. When you get to serial killer, you have to be a person who actually kills over and over, which is this woman. She was found guilty of murdering many a child, many a baby. So she exhibits Munchausen syndrome by proxy. as a behavior of psychopathy. And those together are a methodology of serial homicide, often attached to females. Now, so let me go into what serial killers are. Serial killers, and I'm not talking about assassins. Somebody works for the cartel. They kill lots of people, and they're not what you traditionally call a serial killer. When I'm talking about serial killer, I'm not even talking about it has to be rape and homicide. Serial killers don't always have to commit a sexual homicide to be a serial killer. David Berkowitz, son of Sam, he was like, well, I didn't rape him. He told one woman, no, I'm just going to kill you. I'm not going to rape you. What's your problem? Because he liked to shoot them. And he was a serial killer, but he got his power and control and his attention through the media, his thrills through shooting people. So you don't always have to rape people to be a serial killer. But what you do have to do to be a serial killer is kill enough, at least twice. Let me go on with let me clear up the FBI serial killer label thing. For many years, the FBI said you had to kill 3 people to be considered a serial killer. And I always thought that was kind of crazy. I'm like, well, if you kill somebody and you want to do it again, and you do it again, I'm going to call you a serial killer. I'm good with 2. And I fought that for many years. And finally, the FBI finally changed their minds and had nothing to do with me. But okay. But I'm glad they did. Even sometimes what I would say is if you find, like, for example, a woman who's been raped and murdered and she's lying in the bushes on a bike trail, I would call that a suspected serial killer. So if it's not a personal murder from a boyfriend or something like that, or a husband is trying to get rid of her, staging a crime, if it's a real, honest to God sexual homicide, it's not something you do just once. This is a person who's crossed the line to such an extent that he enjoys what he's doing, that power, the control that he gets out of that. So he's going to do it again, or he's already done it. You just don't know it. So I'm going to say 1 is enough to make me say suspected serial killer under those conditions. Now, if you find somebody who's just been shot in the head, you can't say that's a serial killer because you're like, well, I don't even know why he did it. At that point, it could be a revenge killing. It could be a drug deal gone bad. It could be things, many things. But then if you get a David Berkowitz, he does it more than once. And there's no good reason for it. It's for power and control. He's a serial killer. And of course, by the time 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I'm going to say you're pretty sure the dude's a serial killer. Or what about females? All right. The whole point of serial homicide is not about it's about the power and control you get through some methodology. Now, for men, guys, you can add rape to that. I mean, if you're going to kill somebody off and you're already a psychopathic male, why not throw rape in? Because that is another level of power and control. You throw rape in there. Now you watch the woman's terror. You humiliate her. You do this terrible thing to her, and you enjoy it. And then you kill her too, because that's part of what you like to do. And so the whole rape and homicide are all about power and control. But rape is not required. It just can be part of it. Torture is not required, but it can be part of it. So it all depends how you get your rocks off. You know what I mean? What do you like doing? And for a lot of men who are psychopaths, the violent act, the act, that moment of being able to commit that level of physical violence and control of somebody physically is a thing that they enjoy and they get their kick out of. But for females, this is not really that a female-y thing to do. All right. So yes, there are female serial killers. Aileen Wuornos, she was a prostitute who killed some of the Johns, and she preferred a more violent method. There are women who hook up with men who help kill off women too. But most of them do not commit overly violent crimes in the commission of serial homicides. The number one way females commit serial homicide is through the murder of children, babies, the elderly. And sometimes they'll poison like guys. They'll like lure guys into their home and poison them and bury them in the garden. Usually softer techniques, because their thrill is not from the actual violent act. Their thrill is playing God. Like, well, that's true for male serial killers too. They like to play God. I control life and death, and your life's over, and I've caused that. That's exciting. For female serial killers that exhibit Munchausen syndrome by proxy, especially, what they do is enjoy that they control life and death. Now, some are female, some female of this variety. They are mothers, and what they do is this: they get pregnant, and there's a moment of power and control when they get pregnant. And everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, you're pregnant! Isn't that cool?" And they get to go to the doctor over and over again and get them, get checked out and all that stuff. They get to play for 9 months the attention game. That power that they have, that they were able to get pregnant, they have a baby in them, and look at this. Then they have the baby. Right after they have the baby, there may be a moment like, look, I had a baby. And everybody's like, oh, how cool. And then, it's not so much fun anymore. You got to feed the stupid thing. And it cries. And now your husband's over it and he goes to work, or, and you're left stuck with this crying thing. And now it's not so much fun. People get over praising you and being thrilled about you. And so you get frustrated. And at some point you go, if this baby dies, I don't have to deal with it anymore. And I get a lot of attention. So you take a pillow and you smother the thing. And oh my goodness, everybody comes and says, oh my God, your poor child died of SIDS. Because anybody whose child dies of SIDS, we are going to be heartbroken for them, because I can't even imagine. I remember staring at my little baby next to me and watching her breathe, making sure she's breathing. The thought that I could just come back in the room and she's not breathing, it's just horrifying. So yeah, anybody who loses their child to a true SIDS case, it's horrifying. But if you kill your child and people don't know the difference between that and SIDS, and the doctors haven't figured it out, or the police haven't figured it out, you get to play that game. Oh my God. And everybody, you get a funeral, you get all the sympathy cards, you get, oh my goodness, it's great. Then you realize, just like a male serial killer, well, the thrill is over. I've had my moment and I'm going to go back to normal life. But after a while, I'm frustrated. I've lost that feeling of that thrill of power that I got at that moment. Was so good. And now it's been a while, and I started getting back into life. I got a new job or whatever, and things are going well, but now I'm bored again. And my husband, and whatever your issues are. A lot of times male serial killers, they kill after they have something like a girlfriend leaves them, they lose their jobs, they lose a level of power, and they want to get that power back, that feeling. So they go out and kill again. Well, for a female serial killer like this, let me stay with the mothers for a while. So now you got mommies at home. She's already lost her first baby, and now she's bored, and she goes, okay, I'll get pregnant. She gets pregnant again. She starts a cycle over. She gets the thrill of the pregnancy. She gets all the attention from the doctors, and then she has the baby and gets the baby presents, and then she's stuck with the little monster again, and she kills it again, and she gets that thrill again, the power, control, and all the attention, and she does this as long as she can get away with it. Over and over again. Now, let's go to people who are carers. These would be nurses, daycare, and the nurses tend to be, it's a mixture. Some of them are like on the midnight shift at a nursing home, at a care home, where the elderly can easily die on your shift. And you kind of, if you got a person who, every time that person's on that midnight shift, the death rate goes up 50%, you might want to be checking out your nursing home, who that is. Because when elderly people die, there's usually not much done about it, especially when they're already, they've got Alzheimer's, they're 95, you know what I mean? They die. So the nurse, the LPN, nurse on the midnight shift, she finds a way for them to die. Sometimes she won't let them die all the way. So, the alarm goes up or whatever, and you can run out and go, help. You can get the excitement out of that. But then there's other times you just kill them and you get to see the flurry, and then you get to know, I killed them. How exciting. And so you go on with that. Anesthesiologists are another group, and they tend sometimes to be male, the anesthesiologists. But nurses, interesting enough, there's a lot of women who do exhibit the behaviors of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, who are in the nursing profession. It's interesting. It's not about nurses per se, but it's that they choose that for some other reasons, which I think is because they do have the life and death thing going. That you all know that when you're in a hospital and the nurses come in and give you medicines, they are indeed in control of your well-being. And so, you do have that level, but maybe it's not enough. After a while, it's just not enough. So here's Lucy Letby. Most likely, as I say, she's exhibited some symptoms of Munchausen syndrome, not Munchausen syndrome by proxy because she was growing up and she didn't have access to children to knock off. But she probably exhibited some level of Munchausen syndrome through lies and manipulation in her history. Although we haven't heard about it, I think it's there. It's just that a lot of times families and friends are just, it's right over their heads, you know? So she gets into the nursing profession where she gets to start having this control. But somewhere along the way, it just is not enough. Just is not enough. And so she decides she wants more power, more control, and more attention. She wants to play God. And there's another thing I want to say about serial homicide and serial killers. I often liken some of them to Superman and Clark Kent, because most of these serial killers, female or male, present as Clark Kent in real life. They seem a little bit on the wimpy side. They don't seem to be that. And there are exceptions, so don't start putting all the comments about it. That person was different. There are the anomalies, and I'll do some interesting some shows on the anomalies, which are fascinating. But majority of them do not have great success in their lives. They're considered the Clark Kent. They maybe have trouble dating. They may have trouble, being successful. People ignore them. People overlook them. And they don't think they've gotten enough attention. They're the Clark Kents. But just like Clark Kent, they are not really Clark Kent. They're really Superman. They go into that phone booth, they change their clothes, they turn out as Superman, and they go out and they be Superman, but the next day people still don't know they're Superman. They only see Clark Kent. So what a serial killer can do is he's walking down the bike path. He's looking like some regular guy. Nobody has any suspicions. And he jumps out and he rapes and murders a woman. He has become Superman in that instance. And the next day, he's Clark Kent, and you have no idea he just murdered somebody. And they're all running around. All the police are running around. It's all over the news looking for this vicious serial killer, and they don't even notice you because you're Clark Kent. Well, you can have female Clark Kents too. So she says, well, everybody just thinks I'm just Lucy Letby. But, hey, I'm not just Lucy Letby. I'm Supergirl or Superwoman, or what do you want to make her, And in those moments, she takes over. She goes beyond anybody's expectations of her. And she makes that child ill, makes that child sick, causes that child's death. She plays God. Everybody runs around, not having a clue that it's her. And she goes back to her home with a big smile on her face and says, I did it. They thought I was nobody, but I was super somebody. And y'all didn't even have a clue. And once that drug gets into your system, that you can commit these crimes, play God, do all these things, and nobody has an idea, oh my goodness, how you want to do it again and again and again and get away with it. So yes, she's a serial killer. Absolutely, 100%. So just to wrap it up, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, yes, she exhibits that as a behavior. Okay, as a behavior of what? Psychopathy. And who if a psychopath commits murder by way of the behaviors of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, then she is a serial killer. So yes, all three. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to you to try to clear some of that up. I will link my previous video below. And I hope this helps understanding more of how things work in a very realistic situation. Again, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, and I don't I don't use a lot of fanciful words because I'm just too basic, down to earth for that. Because I just see things as they are. This is just a reality. So, yeah, Munchausen syndrome by proxy as a behavior of psychopathy, which is what you need to be a serial killer. And to be a serial killer, you need to be a psychopath, and you need to kill at least 2 times, if not many more. And there you have it. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for being here. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. This is an educational channel. Yes, I don't do, it's not a gossip channel, so I can use your support. Also, press the bell to get notifications, and check out my playlist because I have a lot of educational videos on there to help you understand a criminal profiling, crime scene analysis, and everything related to that. So we'll see what happens with Lucy Letby in the future. I'm just afraid that there's going to be the appeal after appeal after appeal, and somebody saying that, oh, she's totally innocent, and it was all the doctors who just try to get away with bad hospital practices. Now, the doctors may have ignored what she did, or they may have tried to cover it up, or they may not have understood it, or they may have been confused because nobody wants a hospital to go down in flames with this kind of thing. So are they totally innocent? Probably not, as far as being willing to go public earlier and saving the lives of other children. But do I think she's innocent? No, I don't. I think she is exactly what I said. Munchausen syndrome by proxy, psychopath, and serial killer. Thank you for being here. Bye.